The late afternoon light spilled across Bristol Café and Dine like molten gold, bathing every polished surface in a warm glow. The cafe hummed with gentle chatter, the clinking of cutlery, and the rhythmic hiss of the espresso machine. But behind the counter, tension brewed. Daniel Reed, the cafe's manager, adjusted his tie for the third time in 5 minutes. The food critic from Gourmet Weekly was due any moment, and everything had to be perfect. His reflection in the glass door looked composed, but beneath that calm surface, frustration churned. On the counter sat an empty plate where the day's highlight dessert, a triple-layer strawberry cake, should have been. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Where is he?" he muttered, checking his watch again. "He's 15 minutes late." The sun streamed through the tall windows, gleaming off the marble floors as customers lingered, unaware that Daniel's carefully built reputation was seconds away from unraveling. Then, the door creaked open. A delivery man staggered inside, sweat clinging to his forehead, his white shirt sticking to his back. One sleeve was torn near the elbow, and a faint patch of red peeked through the fabric. Ethan Cole, barely in his mid-20s, carried the cake box with shaking hands. His steps were uneven, but he kept walking until he reached the counter. "Sorry for the delay," he panted softly. Daniel's face hardened. The perfectionist in him saw only the lateness, not the man's condition. He marched forward, his voice rising across the bright cafe. "Do you have any idea what your delay has cost me?" His words cut through the calm like glass shattering. "A food critic, here, waiting, and you stroll in like it's nothing?" Every customer turned. The chatter died. The sunlight still glowed warmly, but the air had turned sharp and heavy. Ethan lowered his eyes, his hand clutching his side where the stain had grown darker. I really tried, sir. There was—" "Enough!" Daniel snapped. "You people always have excuses. You can't do a simple job on time." The delivery boy tried to respond, but his lips trembled. A faint dizziness swirled in his gaze. Then his knees gave way. The box tilted dangerously, but even as he fell, Ethan's instinct was to protect it, holding the cake above the ground as his body hit the marble floor with a dull thud. Gasps rippled through the cafe. The critic rose silently, observing the scene unfold with a frown. Ethan's voice came out weak and trembling. "I'm sorry. I really tried my best." His words faded into a faint whisper. The nurse from a nearby table rushed forward, checking his pulse. "He's bleeding," she said urgently. "He needs help." But Daniel stood frozen. The embarrassment, the ruined impression, the shock, it all tangled inside him. The critic picked up his coat, leaving his half-finished coffee behind. No words, no review, just silence. Daniel's face burned with humiliation. As the staff scrambled to help Ethan, he turned away, muttering under his breath. Pathetic excuse. He walked back behind the counter, ignoring the eyes watching him, the judgment hanging in the air thicker than the smell of coffee. Moments later, the ambulance's siren echoed faintly outside, a sharp, distant reminder of something real, something human. Ethan was carried out, pale and unconscious. The cafe slowly returned to motion, but the warmth of the sunlight now felt cold against the glass. But what Daniel didn't know was that this wasn't just another late delivery. The truth behind that bloodstain would soon shatter everything he thought he understood about people and about himself. Hours passed. The day ended. The critic never returned. As the golden evening light stretched across the empty cafe, Daniel sat alone in his office. The once busy counter was now spotless, silent. He stared at the ruined schedule in front of him, his pen tapping anxiously. Outside, the city carried on, laughter, traffic, life, while he replayed the scene over and over in his head. The collapse. The blood, the silence that followed. He told himself it wasn't his fault. He was just doing his job. But deep down, a small voice whispered otherwise. The office door opened slowly. Lara, one of the waitresses, stepped in holding a small folded note. Her eyes were uneasy. "Sir, there's something you should see." "It's from the hospital." "About the delivery guy." Daniel frowned, confused. "Hospital? What now?" He took the note and unfolded it. His eyes scanned the short message once. Then again, the words hit like a punch to the chest. Patient Ethan Cole admitted with severe blood loss. Injured while rescuing a child from a roadside accident minutes before making your delivery. Daniel's hand trembled. The pen fell from his fingers. He read the note again, each word sinking deeper, heavier. The image of the trembling young man flashed in his mind. The bloodstain, the limp, the exhaustion, and the words he'd thrown at him. You can't do a simple job on time. His breath quickened. Guilt surged through him like ice water. He turned toward the window, where the last rays of sunlight painted long shadows across the marble floor. For the first time all day, Daniel noticed how empty the cafe looked, not just of customers, but of warmth. Somewhere outside, a child's laughter echoed faintly. It twisted the knife deeper. He suddenly realized that if Ethan hadn't stopped to help, that laughter might not exist. Daniel leaned against the counter, his composure breaking. The perfectionist mask, the pride, the control, all of it cracked in silence. He had shouted at a hero, and tomorrow, the world would make sure he never forgot it. If you believe kindness costs nothing but can change everything, hit like, share this story, and subscribe to remind the world that empathy matters. The camera lingers on Daniel's face as he stares at the note again, his reflection trembling in the cafe glass. The sun dips lower and his expression shifts from disbelief to dread. The next scene, a newspaper headline, the words bold and unignorable. Local delivery man saves child's life, collapses minutes later on final delivery. And Daniel's name, already trending beneath it. The morning sun shimmered over the city skyline, wrapping everything in a soft, golden haze. It was the kind of morning that felt like a fresh start, yet for Daniel Reed, it carried the weight of unfinished guilt. As he walked through the hospital gates of St. Grace Medical Center, the rhythmic sounds of life surrounded him. The squeak of nurses' shoes on polished tiles, the hum of monitors, and the distant laughter of children visiting patients. But Daniel barely noticed any of it. In his hand, he clutched a small bouquet of daisies and a white cake box, the very same cake Ethan Cole had risked his life to deliver. Every step echoed louder than it should have, as if the quiet corridor itself were judging him. His usual confidence, the pride that once commanded a busy cafe, had dissolved into something fragile, uncertain. His reflection on the glass door looked like a man stripped of everything that once defined him. He hesitated outside room 214. Through the half-open door, sunlight spilled gently across the sheets. Inside, Ethan sat propped against a pillow, his arm wrapped in bandages, a faint IV line attached to his wrist. His skin was pale but calm, his eyes distant but peaceful. A nurse stood nearby, adjusting the drip, humming softly to herself. Daniel lingered for a moment, almost turning back. But then Ethan looked up. Their eyes met. "Daniel," Ethan said quietly, his voice soft but steady. "You didn't have to come." Daniel stepped in, his throat tightening. He placed the flowers on the bedside table and forced a small, nervous smile. I needed to," he said, his voice trembling with honesty. "Ethan, I didn't know. I swear I didn't." Ethan's gaze didn't hold anger, only a quiet tiredness, the kind that comes from enduring too much and expecting too little. He gave a faint smile. "You weren't supposed to," he replied. "I just didn't want anyone's day ruined because of me." Those words cut deeper than Daniel had ever imagined. The nurse stepped out, leaving the two men in warm silence. The sunlight filtered through the window blinds, casting golden lines across the room. On the small bedside table sat a photo, a little girl with a bandaged arm, smiling broadly. Daniel looked at it, puzzled. Ethan followed his gaze. "That's Lily," he said softly. "The girl I pulled out from the road yesterday. Her ball rolled into traffic. I didn't even think. I just jumped." Daniel's breath hitched. "You saved her life," Ethan nodded slightly. "She's fine now. Her mom visited this morning." Then, almost as an afterthought, he smiled weakly. "And I still had a delivery to make." Daniel stared at him, speechless. Every harsh word he had thrown now echoed in his mind, poisonous and heavy. "You can't do a simple job on time." The memory burned. He exhaled shakily, then placed the cake box on the tray table beside Ethan. "You saved someone's life," he said quietly. "And still delivered this." Ethan's lips curved into a faint, tired grin. "A promise is a promise." Daniel's composure broke. His eyes glistened, his voice cracked. "You shouldn't have had to prove yourself like that. I judged you without seeing you." The two sat in silence, the weight of unspoken understanding filling the room. The air wasn't heavy anymore. It felt cleansing, almost sacred. The hum of the machines faded beneath the warmth of the sun, and for the first time, Daniel felt something shift deep within him. His pride, his perfectionism, all of it seemed painfully small compared to the quiet strength sitting before him. But what Daniel did next would surprise everyone who knew him. Later that afternoon, as sunlight poured across the glass walls of Bristol Café and Dine, Daniel gathered his staff near the counter, the same place where just a day ago he'd shouted in frustration. Now that same spot held something different, a calm, reflective energy. His employees exchanged curious glances as he cleared his throat. "Yesterday," Daniel began, "I made a mistake, one I won't forget." He paused, letting the silence breathe. "I yelled at someone who was bleeding, someone who had just risked his life for a child. And while I was busy protecting my reputation, he was protecting something far more important: humanity." The staff looked stunned. Even the barista, who rarely stopped working, froze mid-pour. "So," Daniel continued, "from now on, every Friday, this cafe will serve free meals to all delivery drivers. No exceptions." A murmur spread through the crowd. Then came the applause, warm, genuine, thunderous. But Daniel's eyes didn't light up with pride. They stayed distant, thoughtful, fixed on the window where sunlight streamed in, as if searching for something beyond the applause. Because deep down, he knew redemption wasn't found in policies or promises. It was earned, slowly, quietly, through change. That evening, he returned to the hospital once more. Ethan was sitting by the window this time, sunlight bathing his face in gold. Daniel handed him an envelope, his tone humble. "This is for you." Ethan opened it carefully. Inside was a job offer, a permanent position at Bristol Café and Dine, with full benefits. Beneath the letter, a small handwritten note read, "Thank you for teaching me what real professionalism looks like." Ethan looked up, eyes glistening. "Daniel, But Daniel raised a hand gently. "Don't thank me." "You already gave me more than I deserved." The two men shared a quiet smile, one of forgiveness, of understanding. Outside, the day was bright, the city alive. Ethan stepped out of the hospital a few hours later, holding the envelope, his expression calm and hopeful. Across the street, Daniel stood watching, hands in his pockets, the sunlight catching his face. He didn't call out. He didn't need to. For the first time, silence said everything. And as Ethan walked away beneath the warm afternoon glow, one truth lingered: that sometimes the most powerful apology isn't spoken at all. It's lived. Would you forgive someone who hurt you out of ignorance? Tell your answer in the comments. Your words might inspire someone to choose kindness today.